Hey, we're back inside the shop today on Five Lakes Garage to tackle something that has been bugging me ever since I picked up the 1989 Grand Wagoneer Woody. The first time I actually took the wheels off, I noticed it, and first question I had was, why in the heck would they do that? Basically what they did was actually put a 7/16 stud in the Wagoneer. Now this is what I'm talking about. All right, so this is a 7/16 stud. This is one I've already took out already, and what we're going to replace it with is a 1/2 inch stud. Now the only thing that kind of bugs me a little bit is the shank right here is not as long as the other one. Now if you look it up for a 1989 Grand Wagoneer, this is the only thing that's actually going to show up, because this is the one that actually fits. I picked these up, and I kind of wish I did get one that was a little bit longer shank, but when you drill it out, it should be fine. It should be fine. It's a 1/2 inch. There's 6 lugs. So if you do the math, 1/2 inch by 6, that's like 3 inches of stud strength. Yeah, that's how I'm going to figure it out. So what we're going to have to do is actually get all in the front end, which is what we're going to start with. We're going to get the hub off. I'm going to show you how to do that. I didn't see a lot of videos on how to get those off, so hopefully that will help other people as well. But the first thing you're going to need before you do that is a hub nut socket. And this has four prongs on it. This will go into your hub and actually turn your locking nuts that hold your hub on. Now you can also do it with a screwdriver. Just kind of hit it on the edge and hit it with a hammer. The only problem with that is that it does booger up your lock nut a little bit, and also the angle in which you need to get that screwdriver in there doesn't give you a lot of leverage on it. So I definitely recommend getting the socket. I'll put a link down below, and I think it was like 10 bucks, maybe even less. I don't remember, but I'll put that down below. Now, another thing that you're going to need to go get before you actually start this project will be a drill bit. Most drill indexes do not come with this size, and this is how I figured out which size I needed. All right, sorry, I had to put the I had to put the stick inside the Wagoneer so I can actually have an extra pair of hands, because I took my 1/2 inch stud that I just picked up, and then I also have my caliper here. There you go. Now, there's 2 different spots on this stud right here. You have the grooves, which this right here will actually cut into the metal and actually keep it from spinning. And what I want to measure is this little shank right here. So I'm going to take it. We're looking at 15 millimeters. Now, I work with millimeters most of the time because just about everything nowadays, it's in metric. The rest of the world is in metric. We're the only ones that are still in SAE. But if you wanted to go to SAE, all right, 0.59 inches, which comes out to be about a 1932s. That will be the drill bit that you would need to get. Now, if you look at an index, the highest you get is mostly a 1/2 inch. We need to get one bigger. So I picked up this guy, which also I'll put down in the link. I went ahead and, all right, so when I ordered this one, I just went on Amazon, picked up a couple of them, and I've always had it to where if you have a drill bit, it's going to dull out. I do try to use goop with this, like a cutting goop, just so it'll stay relatively sharp. But just in case, I bought a few extra ones. They're from different manufacturers, they are from different prices, and they are different construction. I was going to find out which one works the best. So I think this one here is maybe 10 bucks. This one here is 13. I think these are like 8. And I got 2 of the 8s just because they were cheap. And if I burn through one, I got a few extra to use. So what are you going to use for this? Once you press out your 7/8 stud, you're going to have to drill out with your 15 millimeter or 1932s, drill out the hole. Now once you do that, you're going to put it on the press and actually press in your studs. Some people will actually sit there and put the stud in, put a nut on there and just rip on it. All right. I don't really recommend that, only because this is a brand new stud. You don't want to ruin it by stretching the threads or messing up your socket, or not socket, with your lug nut or anything like that. Just go ahead and use a press. If nothing else, you can use a drift and a hammer, and then hammer these in. I don't like using that only because when you hammer in here, it could have a tendency of going back and forth, and not a big fan of it. But that's okay. Use what you got and use what you're comfortable with. Okay, so one other thing that you're going to need when you are changing your studs is that your regular lug nuts is not going to fit because those are 7/16 and this is a 1/2 inch. So when you get your studs, go ahead and get your lug nuts as well. Now these are 1/2 inch. Now originally I had, I still have black rims on this thing, but I don't want to go with that eventually. I would like to go back to stock. Now the black rims that I have on there are aftermarket. They will accept the 1/2 inch stud pattern, or the 1/2 inch stud holes, and these will work great. So I got black ones for those. But then I went to the salvage yard and picked up these beauties. Now these are original Woody wheels, which I will be using on my next set of tires. Now those right there, you're gonna have to drill out those as well. Just be very careful, try to make it as straight as you can and just drill through it. If you have a drill press, that even works even better. So why am I doing all this? Well, one, I don't like 7/16 because they seem to be kind of weak. This is a very heavy vehicle. We have Dana 44s front and rear, and eventually I would like to go to a bigger tire. Right now I have 33s on there. I want to go up to at least 35s, and if I go to 35s, that's going to be a lot of pressure on these studs. So I'm going to go ahead and swap them out now. And then, anyway, let me just show you how it goes, and you can follow along. All right, I'm in my own little dirty corner, so I can try to get this this side off. I've already did the other side, and what I should have done was started this side so you can see that side and see it a little bit better. But I didn't do that, didn't think about it, but it's okay. We're gonna get this tire off. Hey, look, tire's off. All right, so I got the front jacked up. One thing you always want to do is put a jack stand underneath your axle. You don't want to trust the floor jack, as it is hydraulic and it could leak. You don't want to do that. Okay, first order of business is get the caliper off. They are a Allen wrench. We're going to put it as a big Allen wrench. Actually, I forgot what size, and all of them are rubbed off. I don't know what size it is, but it's okay. We just need to get those guys off. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. All right, so these bolts that actually hold the caliper on, before they go back in, I'm going to wire brush this pretty good and actually put some anti-seize on there or some sort of high temperature lubricant, and to be able, so that it will slide back and forth. This is garbage. All right, so now your caliper is off. Next thing you have to do is get the front cover off. All right, so there is a little groove on the outside of this cap, and what I'm going to use is one of my pry bars to stick it in there, and it has enough of an angle to where it actually can get inside that lip, and then tap with a hammer. All right, as you can see, it's just a press fit. Grease doesn't look too bad. It's a little dirty. We'll clean that up before we put it back on. All right, before I begin, I'm going to have a shop towel ready because you're going to have bearings. You're going to have a bunch of other stuff that's going to be really greasy. We're just going to stick it down onto the shop rag so it doesn't get too destroyed. A couple things you want to look at when you're in here: look at your bearings, look at your seals. If they need to be replaced, go ahead and replace them. Mine are actually on the way, so I'll be taking this apart again to be able to replace the bearings, repack them, and all that type of stuff. Not sure when they'll actually come in or when I'll actually get around to it, but I wanted to show you guys exactly what we need to do. So one piece of tool that you need to get would be some C-clip pliers. So I'm going to sit here and get this C-clip out because this is going to retain. There you go. Pulls right out. All right. So I just got a little pair of needle nose. And what we're going to do is take your sleeve out. Now this right here is actually what locks your hub to your drive shaft or your axle shaft. So the inner splines are for your axle. This goes to your hub. And as you can see inside, they're all nice and splined. So this is where your tool is going to come into play. We're going to stick this in there. Then you're going to take this guy out. And there is your washer. Or there's your lock nut. Stick that down. Now there is a washer in between the two lock nuts. There you go. Now when you put this back together, notice that it is keyed. So it has a little tooth, one tooth right there that actually slides onto the shaft. So now grab the other one out. So I guess if you think about it, the one that I'm getting ready to pull out now, there you go, is to hold the tension onto the bearing. The other one is to lock this one on there so it does not back out. All right, there you go. And actually my grease looks pretty good. This might have been done by the previous owner. So now you should be able to pull this right out. I like my bearing, which I did not want to fall. All right, so two things you need to look for. Look at your bearing, look for any excessive wear. This one actually looks okay, but I'll probably redo it anyway. It's got grease all in it. Grease looks okay. I'm gonna put that down. Now this right here is actually very important. And what this is gonna do, and I'll show you once we put everything back together, you're gonna slide this in and make sure it's in properly so that this guy will stay, because it's basically just a spacer, and it will stay at the right length. Let's go get rid of some of those studs. All right, so we got the hub over here on the bench. Now, a couple things you do not want to have happen is to get metal shavings down into all your grease and your bearings and stuff like that, especially if you're not going to be replacing them right away. So I want to put a towel on top of that. Now, we got to get these studs out. Very difficult. Get yourself a hammer and bop the crap out of it. Now, one thing that is a decent tip, do one of these at a time. And the only reason for that is if this, your rotor and your hub is two separate things. And if you press all these in, drill them out, press them all in to your rotor, when you try to put your hub on there, it doesn't quite want to get on there perfectly straight. So I would recommend doing one at a time. Or maybe two at a time, one here and one there. I don't know, we'll see. But we're just gonna do it one at a time, try to keep everything in place while we're actually doing this. So here's your little tiny little 7/16. We want to put our 1/2 inch in there. Now the hole is almost big enough for this guy. It is really close. And that one, look at that, that's awful. These are brand new. It's a good thing I bought extras. That's horrible. Anyway, so we're gonna grab our drill. And once again, this is a 15 millimeter or a 1932s, and we're going to drill this out. But, there we go. Now don't do it too hard because you will scar up your hub, and you don't want to do that. So you grab a hold of your rag, stick it over the hole so you don't get too much shavings in there, and drill it out. All right, so I have this slugger. It's a cutting paste that I'm going to put my bit in because I want to save my bit. There you go. Just goop it up there. Everybody loves a little bit of lube. Makes it go in nice and easy. All right, so I got my first one drilled. It's probably better off to actually put this into a drill press. I'm gonna try to do it by hand. You just want to make it as straight as possible. When I do the rest, I might go upstairs and actually use the drill press. So, take your stud, stick it in the back. There we go. That should work. Let's take it to the press. All right, so what we have here is a very simple process. I have a gigantic socket, and impact ones work a little bit better. If you actually have actual press equipment, it works even better. So we're going to stick that in there, and what you want to do is use the socket to actually support the bottom so you don't put any stress onto the rotor itself. Lock it up. All right, before you actually drill this in, make sure your socket's in good shape, your alignment and then it is straight up and down. As you can see, we have a 1/2 inch stud in there. All right, that's a very simple process of actually getting all these in there. I have 5 more to go on this one right here. So I'm going to go ahead and quick burn those in so I can save some time. And then when I come back, I'll show you how to install this and make sure everything is tight and where all the specs need to be. All right, I got 6 more to do, or 5 more to do, and then you come back. We'll be installing. Alrighty, now it's time to put the rotor back on. Now, like I said before, ideally you would like to replace your bearings, replace your races, replace all that good stuff, and your seals. But like I said, mine didn't come in yet, so I'll be doing this again, and maybe I'll do a video on that. So, the grease actually looks fairly new. I mean, I should actually pull that off and put new stuff in there, but I'll do that once I do the actual bearings. So you can stick this guy up there, make sure he's on there nice and tight. And then you just need to put everything back in order. First thing that goes on will be your outer bearing. Ugh. Greasy, greasy, greasy. Alright, once you get your outer bearing in, you would put in your inner keeper, which would be this guy. Once that is in there, you can use your tool. Gotta use your tool to put this guy all the way in. Okay, so once you actually get this down in tight, put your wrench on it. Now, if these are brand new bearings, you want to put it a little bit on the tighter side because it will loosen up once they get broken in. But since I'm reusing my original bearings, you just make sure that she rolls free and not too tight. Nice and free flowing, and it's tight, no wiggle, none of that good stuff. So next thing you want to do is put in your retaining ring. Well, actually, this is your the washer in between the two lock washers so that it can spin on each other. Now, don't forget there is that one tooth that you need to locate. Now, once you're actually inside, which would be really hard to see if my fingers are in there and the camera, but when you get to yours, you'll see it right away. Alright, so you're going to take your lock washer or your lock nut, stick that in there, grab your tool again. Now on this one here is a locker, so go ahead and cinch her down. There you go. So now she still rolls free and we're good to go there. So next thing you want to do is actually get your collar or your spacer. Make sure you don't have any metal shavings on there. And you're going to stick this guy in, wiggle it around. You might have to use your pliers to wiggle it around to make sure she is all the way in. Alright, all the way in. Now we're good. Now we just need to get our hub to axle gear. It is splined, so make sure both splines are in there nice and even. There we go. You just got to line everything up. So now the second to the last thing you want to do is grab a hold of your C-clip. Put that in. Now you got to make sure she is seated all the way around, or else it will not stay in. Alright, so once you get your C-clamp in there, you might have to pull your actual shaft. You can push it in from the back to be able to get it all lined up and make sure that it is actually in the groove. Now, the next thing you want to do is actually put your cap back on, which is right here. I'm going to clean this guy up. Alright, good enough. Good enough for a trail rig. Alright, I'm going to go get me a mallet. Alright, always want to use like a dead blow or a plastic mallet, or maybe a rubber one, because you don't want to ding this up too bad. Bam! There you go. Alright, I'm going to go and clean these two up. I'm going to go clean these two up and I'll be right back. Alright, the one problem with using anti-seize. One, you do not want to get it on your rotor. You do not want to get it on your pads. You only want to use a tiny, tiny dab. And the only problem with using anti-seize or this lubricant, it gets everywhere. So just be careful and make sure you do not get it on any of your surfaces that is supposed to stop you. All right, I'm almost ready to put the tire back on, but what I want to do now is actually get some brake clean and spray everything down. I put my fingerprints on it, I put grease on it, and I don't want anything to get interfere with my brakes. She's a big girl. She's gonna plow into something. All right, hopefully that actually helped some of you out. I'm sorry I only was able to do the front. It's such a nice day. The clouds came up, so now I need to go do some other chores. So I will do the rear another time. I'll just put it as a part 2 video. But the front ones are pretty intensive. If you have any additional questions, please comment down below. I'll try to answer any questions that actually come through. All right, this is a relatively easy upgrade from a 7/16 to a 1/2 inch. So go ahead and give it a whirl, especially if you're going to go to much larger tires. I've seen a lot of really awesome rigs out there. I am part of the Facebook group with Wagoneers. A lot of them are stock, but some of them get pretty wild, really big tires and that type of stuff. And with those 7/16s, it's just a matter of time before you're riding on the road and your tire is passing you going down the road. But anyway, all right. Hope you enjoyed. Check out for part 2, and I'll take care of the rear. But it'll be another time because I got some parts in a few minutes ago for the transmission for the Wagoneer. So hopefully I'll be able to get that guy going and do a rebuild video on that. And get it back in there, get it back on the road, and more importantly, get it back on the trails. See you guys next time, and just remember, if you don't understand it, learn it, and don't be afraid to do it, because then you'll know it, and then you'll learn it. So anyway, take a look. Catch you later.